करण जौहर इज़ अ ब्रोकन मैन नाउ। जी हाँ, ये कहना है करण जौहर के फ्रेंड का। क्यों ऐसा कहना है, चलिए आपको बताते हैं। हेलो गाइस, वेलकम टू मूवीज अड्डा। मैं हूँ ज्योति नाहक। सुशांत सिंह राजपूत के चले जाने का कहीं ना कहीं गहरा धक्का पहुंच चुका है करण जौहर को। जी हाँ, इसके रीजंस तमाम हैं। जब से सुशांत सिंह राजपूत गए हैं उसके बाद से लगातार सोशल मीडिया पर जिस तरह की खबरें चल रही हैं, जिस तरीके से करण जौहर को ब्लेम किया जा रहा है, और सिर्फ करण ही नहीं बल्कि उनके आसपास के लोगों को भी, उससे करण जो है वो शैटर हो चुके हैं। ये कहना है करण जौहर के एक फ्रेंड का। क्या कुछ कहा उन्होंने, ये मैं आपको बताती हूँ इस वीडियो में। जब उनसे करण के बारे में पूछा गया तो उन्होंने कहा कि करण जौहर इज़ अ ब्रोकन मैन नाउ। जिस लेवल का हेट्रेड, जिस लेवल की ट्रोलिंग उन्हें मिल रही है इस वक्त सोशल मीडिया पर, वो अनबियरेबल है। और कहीं ना कहीं इससे ज़्यादा पहले ऐसा कभी नहीं हुआ जिस तरीके से इस वक्त सोशल मीडिया पर सुशांत के जाने के बाद एक गुमार सा आ गया है। हर कोई करण और नेपोटिज्म और इस तरह की तमाम चीज़ों को जिम्मेदार ठहरा रहा है। ऐसे में करण जौहर जो है वो बिल्कुल ही ठंडे पड़ चुके हैं और बिल्कुल ही अकेले पड़ चुके हैं। मैं आपको बता दूं कि उनके फ्रेंड ने ये भी स्टेटमेंट दिया कि करण जो है वो इस वक्त कुछ भी कहने की, कुछ भी सुनने की हालत में नहीं है। सिर्फ इतना ही नहीं बल्कि जिस तरह की ट्रोलिंग हो रही है, उन्हें लगा था कि हमेशा से ट्रोल होते आए हैं वो, पर कहीं ना कहीं अब जो है वो उनको आदत पड़ चुकी होगी इस चीज़ की। लेकिन ये जो चीज़ हुई है, ये होने के बाद उन्हें समझ में आया है कि दिस इज़ अनदर लेवल। लोगों का प्यार, इमोशन, गुस्सा, दर्द, तकलीफ अनदर लेवल है। और साथ ही साथ करण जौहर के जो दो छोटे बच्चे हैं, ट्विन्स हैं, यश और रूही, उन तक को डेथ थ्रेट्स आ रही हैं, जो कि कहीं ना कहीं बहुत ही ज़्यादा गलत है। और सिर्फ इतना ही नहीं बल्कि मैं आपको बता दूं कि अनन्या पांडे, जिनका सुशांत सिंह राजपूत से दूर दूर तक कोई लेना नहीं है, या फिर आलिया भट्ट, या इस तरह की जो तमाम चीज़ें हैं, ये सभी लोग अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं। और कहीं ना कहीं करण जौहर को जिम्मेदार माना जा रहा है इन सभी चीज़ों के लिए, हेड माना जा रहा है इन सभी चीज़ों का। सो इस चीज़ से करण जो है वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा अपसेट हो चुके हैं। आप एज अ व्यूअर क्या कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, या आप हमें बताइए कमेंट सेक्शन में।
You know, there are several moments in that book where you talk about people confronting you at airports, at parties, and saying the most gross things, the most insensitive things, and you come back to them is sassy but also a little sad. Why should anyone have to explain any aspect of their lives at all or defend it?
I think
Why?
people sometimes, when you're in the celebrity zone, I think people tend to sometimes just not know what to say. Like, I feel like when they encounter you, they either tend to overcompensate and say exceptionally polite things, or they'll say the most inappropriate things to you. I think anyone who's been in the celebrity space will tell you that you'll have people come and say the most overfamiliar things to you at times. And sometimes because they think that they own you, because you're in their living room on a daily basis, perhaps because of my television exposure, or the fact that one is around and all over the place, they feel they have an ownership over you. And sometimes that allows them to kind of cross the boundary of decency. And they'll say things that are inappropriate. And you'll have to stand there. Sometimes you can give a response back, which sometimes goes over their head, because it's not a straight-lined answer. And sometimes you use sarcasm, which also sometimes doesn't get a response. Sometimes all you do is just, like Shah Rukh told me the other day, that now when people say things, he just nods. Because there's nothing else to say. Sometimes you just nod because people say the most bizarre things, and sometimes it's members of the fraternity, sometimes it's members of the media within the fraternity, sometimes it's random strangers at an airport, and you have to just deal with it. There's nothing you can do. You can't. At least I'm not the guy who's going to start getting into a fight, because I don't think I'll have the ability to handle it if I was at the receiving end. So I just let it pass.
May I share that one moment at the airport, which is in your book, so everyone's going to read it anyway,
Right.
where a person comes up to you, his wife is with him, and he walks up to you and says to you, "So, are you a homo?"
Yeah.
And your response is, "Why? Are you interested?" And I thought that was just fabulous. That's, the aplomb and the tight slap that probably the man warranted.
Well, it was it was what came out, like literally it just came out very because I thought it was an exceptionally inappropriate thing. And the wife was clicking a photograph of mine while he was asking me this question. And he asked me, patting me on my back. It wasn't just a car. It was an over-familiar pat, like as if I had, like we had dinner last night, and he decided to ask me this question early in the morning. And it's happened to me. It's also in the book when I was on the launch of a channel, and it was an early morning breakfast interview where I was asked an inappropriate question, and I was completely shocked that we were on national television. Of course, it never made it because they realized that it was completely wrong. Fortunately, it wasn't a live telecast. But sometimes you just wonder whether people just don't have the sensitivity or the decency, or use language to ask a question that may not come across inappropriate. There are various ways. I'm a member of the media myself. I host a talk show. And I know sometimes when you want to kind of ask something, you can circumvent it with words and vocabulary. You don't suddenly just go out there and ask in the pretense of being completely candid, or then irreverent, or perhaps over-familiar.
But you know, the surprising part of the book, towards the end of the book, when you talk about maybe going on to dating sites, I found that fascinating, that you went on to an elite dating site and a date was set up for you in Tokyo. And you said, why should I go to Tokyo to meet someone? How did you get onto these dating sites? I mean,
that's
why?
a story in itself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to kind of scratch the surface to find, what's not immediately available. So there are various ways and means I think people sometimes have to kind of look at. When you're single and 44, you'll probably go through every kind of possible available opportunity.
I thought that was fantastic because most people would not admit it.
I would have actually
They'd
liked
be
to give the
addicted, but they
name.
won't.
It was a selective. I would have liked to give the name, but they're so exclusive and quiet and have full, disclosure issues. So that's why I didn't give that information. Not that anything's come out of it, and I'm not a success story of their agency at all. In fact, I'm a rather, apparently 2 out of 3 people succeed, and I'm that one who failed.
You've also talked about 3.5 failed relationships. 1 true love, and I think 3.5 failed relationships. You've spoken about it with a great deal of some amount of regret, but compassion, empathy about why they didn't work out.
Well, they were not any relationships. They were mostly unrequited love situations, which is great fodder for a filmmaker, not so great for a personal life. I suppose that comes from your sense of indulgence and over-expectation. Sometimes you tend to expect from quarters that you know won't deliver, and that invariably happens when, and that's what I call indulgence, is like if I had a pragmatic approach to love, which is not possible with me, I would possibly have been in a long-standing relationship. But I've always desired what I know I can't have.
You also talked about divorce being the new marriage. And throughout the book, there is a kind of a strand which keeps going back to infidelity. And it's like almost a semi-obsessive aspect of your creative process to deconstruct everybody's marriages and to see who's cheating, who's lying, who's living a lie.
Because truly, in my experience, I think there's much ado about fidelity and infidelity. I think sometimes true emotion and relationships can go beyond those. And being a single bystander, you tend to be so close to so many relationships and marriages. And in my experience, and I say this, and I don't have any kind of, with all kinds of moral policing on my statement, I'm sure, but I don't think infidelity is a deal breaker. I don't believe
It's not a deal breaker.
No, I don't think so. And I feel like it's very individualistic. It's as per each one's life. And I feel like I'm not judgmental about it at all. And I'm not sure if I'm capable of complete fidelity, even if I was deeply in love.